welcome back to my channel. My name is Kelsey and we're going to finish a series today. If you have not been following this series on my channel, I will leave a link up above to the playlist I have with the different videos of series that I have been finishing. I explain this with every video, but I have a problem buying books of series and not completing them. So this series that I'm doing on my channel is sort of to keep me accountable so that I can finish these series. The series selected for this video, this vlog, will be the Southern Reach trilogy by Jeff Vandermeer. So we will be completing this with the second book, Authority, and the finale, Acceptance. Each book, I believe, is slightly different from the synopsis of the first book, Annihilation.
Like, obviously? What could I have meant by that? Obviously the synopsises are different from the first book.
Annihilation followed the 12th expedition that was sent into this area called Area X. Area X has been cut off from the world for decades, and nature has sort of reclaimed this area as the last vestiges of human civilization. Different expeditions have gone in, and each of them have come out sort of a shell of what was sent in. Authority is taking place immediately after the 12th expedition comes back. John Rodriguez has been sort of made a standing appointed head, and he is working with a distrustful but desperate team that would like to get answers as to what happened with the 12th expedition. I've only made it 13 pages into this. I started this like when I was half asleep last night. So I haven't made that much dent into it, but my plan is to really get into it today. I would like to reach at least the 100 page mark by the end of the day. Annihilation by Jeff Vandermeer was one of my favorite books the year I read it, and it opened me up to a world of science horror or eco horror that I did not know existed and completely enveloped me. I became obsessed, and that's why we read Born for the Professor Kelsey's book club. I've just been really into eco horror, so I'm really hoping Authority and Acceptance give me that fix that I need. So I'm really looking forward to finishing this series. I will give you an update 100 pages into Authority when I can, and welcome along for the ride. Hello, so I wanted to give an update on Authority by Jeff Vandermeer. I made it to the 89 page mark, and I think that that's a good place to really dive into the introduction of this book and my feelings towards it. So right now we are getting a lot of information on the new head of the Southern Reach named Control and the reasons that he's there. We sort of see that there is a background reason for why Control is the head. The other members of the Southern Reach are kind of like, who is this guy? Why is he the head? They don't really respect him in a way, and Control is really dealing with the needs of what's going on behind the scenes and then dealing with the egos of others while also dealing with his own ego. He is very committed to the idea that he will get all the information of what happened in Area X from the biologist. And if you've only watched the movies, the biologist is Natalie Portman's character, or Keira Knightley. I mix them up. I think it's Natalie Portman who's in this movie. Anyways, and from what I remember with Annihilation, the biologist is one of the, or probably the main character. So without going into spoilers, there is a reason that the biologist is the more needed or more interested character by Southern Reach and by the controller. He's also like weirdly fascinated by the biologist, but also it's important for him to gather information because they escaped Area X. They seem okay, but they don't really remember how they got out, what happened. So I think this could be really interesting because we obviously have a more like thrilling aspect to this book. It's less of a horror as Annihilation was so far. That's at least the gist that I'm feeling, and more of like a thriller mystery, because obviously Control has motivations that are outside of what the Southern Reach wants, and he's interviewing the biologist for more nefarious means. I think it's fascinating that there's already a genre shift in the books, so I would like to see where it goes. In regards to my feelings a little bit with the experience of the novel, I do find this beginning portion to be a bit more boring than what we saw in Annihilation. So I'm hoping that the thrillery aspects pick up and maybe add to more context of what Area X is, because that's what I'm most interested in for these books. I will continue reading it a bit today and get back to you when I've read another like 100 pages or so. So last night I got to page 197 in Authority by Jeff Vandermeer, and a lot is sort of being developed right now, which is really interesting. I'm sorry my hair is like a mess. It's very humid today. We're getting remnants of like a hurricane passing. You would think our power would go out, I wouldn't have to work, but no, that didn't happen. No joy, no break today. But to go back to Authority, what we found out in the last 100 pages has been really interesting. We're starting to see that Control is potentially being controlled by an outside force. We know that he is in communication with this person called the Voice, and the Voice is sort of inclining him to investigate certain things about Area X. Control is starting to notice like weird things happening around him, specifically one like monumental moment. In his car, he sees like a swatted mosquito, and he knows, at least he doesn't remember swatting a mosquito in here since he had last been in the car, which I think is really interesting because it's such a minute and small detail that I don't know if I would have ever noticed. But I guess I don't have an inclination that I'm being like controlled or like mind manipulated, so maybe I'm not looking for those things. Something to keep in mind. Or he also thinks potentially the woman Grace, who is his like assistant director, who doesn't really like him, they're like at a constant odds, has it out for him in some sort of way, and she's the one that's investigating or going through his stuff. I feel like that's too simple of a solution, so I don't think Jeff Vandermeer is going to go along that route. And we're also learning different things about Area X, so more stuff is being revealed that we didn't know from the first book. So there's more iterations that went to Area X that the public is not aware of before 12. So we know that there's obviously like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, but there was like different control groups that were sent within those numbers, which means that there's so much more, or so many more people that have been sent to Area X. We're also learning that it's not a fluke, I think, of where Area X is. Like it could have been anywhere. It didn't just happen to be there. It was like sort of placed there, is what I'm sort of understanding. I think it's meant to be kind of confusing, and I think the last 100 pages is really going to explain everything that is confusing in the book and start to get more thrilling. So right now Control is like learning things, and I think like the more he learns, the more someone is going to put a stop to it. So I'm very interested to see how that further develops. I will probably not update you until I am done the final 100 pages, so see you then. Hello, so a lot has happened that I wasn't able to update you more quickly than I wanted to, but I did in fact finish Authority by Jeff Vandermeer last week, and this one was really different from the first one in the series. I think I made that very clear that the experience that I was having with this book was not the same. I found it fairly difficult to get into the beginning, and long. Like it took me a long time to get into it, which was definitely my fault because I think I was just being stubborn about the fact that it wasn't as engaging or as interesting as Annihilation was. However, once I was able to get more into it and I was more understanding of like what was going on, what was occurring, what the vibe was, I was hooked, and I ended up finishing it fairly quickly after that. Although there's not as much adventure in this one, it had more of a slow and creeping thrill. The beginning was slow, but then it starts to get really, really eerie and creepy. And that makes the beginning kind of hard to follow because it's diving into the more political aspects of the Southern Reach, of the book overall, of the plot, only then to ramp up on different reveals, some of which were absolutely disturbing. Like the last clip I think I filmed of myself, I was like visibly disgusted. Additionally, I feel like instead of answering some questions that we have from Annihilation, it just created more of them, which I don't think is a bad thing. It makes me more excited to pick up book 3, but I just really hope that book 3 answers some of the questions that we have overall. So I gave this a 4 stars. It's relatively the same rating that I gave Annihilation as well upon a first read. So in the next clip, I will be diving straight into Acceptance. Something major occurs in Authority that causes the more crumbling and confusing nature for the Southern Reach in this book. So I'll be starting it soon. I have the audiobook, so I'll come back with a first update at about 100 or so pages. Hello. So I wanted to talk about where I've gotten to into Acceptance by Jeff Vandermeer, and I'm at page 108, chapter 8, and this book has a really interesting format that I'm enjoying a lot. So basically, this book is told through different timelines in a sense, but mostly told through 3 different POVs, and obviously these 3 different POVs are told at multiple points of the development of Area X. So we have the lighthouse keeper. His storyline is taking place what seems to be before Area X has formed or is forming. And the lighthouse keeper interacts with like 3 people, one of which is a young girl named Gloria, and 2 other characters are these people that are investigating the area, exploring the area, doing scientific research in the area. And Sol, the lighthouse keeper, doesn't necessarily want to know what they're doing. He just wants to do his job, and he is also taking care of this younger girl named Gloria. The second perspective is of Gloria. However, when she is much older and working as a psychologist for the Southern Reach, this is the first commander-in-chief, the one who went with the 12th expedition to Area X, and the one that is currently missing as of the second book in the series, Authority. So her chapters are a bit more confusing to me, as I believe they are sort of happening before the 12th expedition. There's some moments where I'm wondering if it's occurring at the same time. It's just that she herself is confused in her memories as well. All we know at this point is that she's missing. So this really could be any sort of chapter. I believe it's probably like her perspective from Annihilation into Authority type of vibe. And then we have the third perspective, which is Ghostbird. This is the chapters that are following Control and the biologist after the events that occurred in Authority, and they are exploring seemingly a new area. And I don't want to get too much into spoilers for Authority, but what's interesting is that we learn something new about the biologist and how this will affect the way that we perceive Area X and the way that these other characters in the book, so Gloria and Sol, how they will interact with the inevitable rise of Area X. So far I'm really enjoying it. Like I said, Gloria's chapters are a bit more confusing to me, so I think I'm going to go look for some sort of summary online just to get a better grasp at what I'm reading, so I know and can place myself in like a timeline and follow along correctly. But Ghostbird chapters and the Lighthouse Keeper chapters are both very clear, very interesting, and I am really enjoying those chapters. When we get to the Gloria chapters, that's when I'm feeling a bit more confused. So I definitely think just taking a deep dive into reading like a quick little beginning synopsis of her chapters will help me understand a bit more. I'm going to go back and read the next 100 pages. We'll see how far I get to tonight, but I do want to finish this by tomorrow. That's my #1 goal. So we'll see how that goes. Hello, so it's been a couple of days. If I'm wearing the same shirt as I wore in the last clip of this vlog, I'm sorry. It's been like at least 2 weeks since I read this book. Just life stuff, my friend's wedding, the bachelorette party, a lot of things were going on. But I did get to the 200-page mark, and it is just as captivating as it was at the beginning of the month. I know I'm behind, but that is due to my life and not due to my interest in the book. In fact, I find this one to be far more captivating and far more interesting than the second book. Almost equivalent to me as Annihilation. It is just as spooky, just as creepy, and just as like jaw-dropping reveals. I think I'm enjoying this one probably the most, or at least it's reminding me of my experience when I read Annihilation. So we just finished part 2, which was a conglomerate of the last will and testament of the biologist. So we're learning a lot of things about Area X and how Area X is and what encompasses the population of Area X. So we're understanding that Area X is doing something to the humans. We already know that from book 1. We know that something is happening to the humans, and when they come back, they're off, they're sick, something's wrong with them. We're learning now that something is far more done to the humans than we originally suspected. The like merging of these 3 perspectives is just fascinating to me. I love multiple perspectives, first of all, but I also love like time jumps, time skips, when everything starts to slowly come together. I just think it's absolutely phenomenal, absolutely beautiful. So I'm really loving this, and I'm hoping that I can finish it probably not today, but at least within the next coming days, just because I feel like this might be at the very least a 4.5, but this is exactly like what I love in books, so it might be a 5-star as well. It's really keeping my attention, which is like the #1 thing for finales. My friend is coming over. We're going to have lunch together, probably do a little bit of work, gossip, walk my sister's dog, who's also here, and then chill for the rest of the night. So see you in some B-roll if I remember, see you tomorrow if I don't. Hello, welcome to the end of the vlog, and we will get into my final thoughts for Acceptance by Jeff Vandermeer. So I think it was fairly clear that I enjoyed this book a lot. I enjoyed it more than I did Authority, which was the second book, simply because this was just an incredible ending, and we'll get to that I really liked. It was so different from its predecessors in terms of like the format, and I absolutely love that. This division into like 3 POVs was just amazing. It really reminded me of the first book in a lot of ways. It was still mysterious, but it still answered a lot of the questions that we were having, and I really like that it still leaves some things open to the imagination. Vandermeer's writing was definitely his strongest suit in all of his books, but like especially in this one, I was just captivated by so many paragraphs and so many scenes. I ended up giving this a 4.5 stars. This was definitely like, I think, the strongest in the series, and I really enjoyed this. What ended up happening is that I found out that Vandermeer is releasing a new book in this series. I thought the series was over because obviously the bind up is released of the 3 books. It's called the Area X trilogy always, but this year he announced that the 4th book is going to happen. So I guess you could say this is another failed vlog in a series of failed vlogs I've been having in a row on my channel that are somehow working out for me. So it's still a success in my mind. But yes, the Southern Reach is now a series and no longer a trilogy, because Absolution is coming out in October of this year. It will be structured into 3 parts, each recounting a new expedition. There are some long-awaited answers here to be sure, but also more questions and profound new surprises. So I'm really excited for that. I plan on reading it, definitely. I think we can confidently say that this was a satisfying ending to what was the trilogy, and we'll count this as a series completed. So let's just summarize my overall ratings for the book. The first book I read for the vlog was Authority, and I gave this a 4 stars. Enjoyed it, but not as much as Annihilation, and clearly not as much as Acceptance, which I ended up giving a 4.5 stars. So that's it for this vlog. If you've read this series, please let me know down below what you've thought about it. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Let me know. Have you read Jeff Vandermeer? Do you like him as much as I do? Let me know. And if you would like to follow me on any of my other social medias, I do leave a link down below to my Twitter, Goodreads, and Instagram if you would like to follow me there. And of course, because it is the end of the video, please do not forget to like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell. It does wonders for my channel. It makes me feel really good. And that's it. I never know how to end these things, so I will see you next time. Okay, bye!